And we do have some Brian Kelly sound from yesterday. Kelly was speaking at the podium for his regular Monday press conference as he was recapping the win. Good news on Emory Jones, I thought. That was my biggest takeaway. We'll let you hear from what Coach Kelly had to say about the latest on Emory Jones, as this is for Stewie. But this is obviously going to be a big storyline to watch. Not only, obviously this week he's not going to play, but during the bye week is going to be the status of Emory Jones and just where he is from a rehab standpoint. Kelly did say that Mekhi Wingo was going to be held out of action on Saturday as well for an injury that he had been dealing with for the most, kind of for the majority of the season. But the biggest news is Emory Jones and the feeling that Kelly and the staff has on what the prognosis could be for their starting right tackle. Here's Kelly yesterday talking about the latest on Emory Jones.
Yeah, we think it's an injury that can be managed quite well, and that we'll have him back. Again, as we look at this, from an injury standpoint, we're always going to be deliberate in making sure these guys are 100% moving forward as we get into the year. But both of them are guys that we feel comfortable they're going to be back at full strength. Look, going into the Missouri game, we'd given up, I think we had tracked like 15 drives, and I think 13 out of 15 we'd given up points. The past 15 drives, I think we've given up 5 out of 15, so something in that effect. So we're just playing more consistent defense, and it's not just one; it's 11 guys knowing their roles. And I've talked about this a couple of times, and I'll say it again. When the structure of the defense is in place, and everybody knows their role within the defense, you start to get complementary defense. Guys knowing their roles allows 11 guys to play together, and we didn't do a great job of that early on, and part of that was, trying to find roles for guys, not knowing clearly what the best lineup was, and now establishing what that looks like has allowed us to build that kind of consistency on defense.
Kelly yesterday speaking about Emory Jones, also talking about the third down defense and how it's improved over the last 2 games. And look, like we talked about with the defense, I mean, if you can find something that you do well, if you can find something that you can hang your hat on, and really start to find some confidence and find some grow points in it, then really you can start to develop an identity for yourself from a defensive standpoint. So hopefully LSU is finding that way with their third down defense and really kind of preaching that. I will say this, in talking to some coaches around LSU, Brian Kelly has been spending a ton of time with the defense, whether it's in practice, in the meeting room. I mean, when, look, I've not questioned ever the commitment of Brian Kelly, but just in the building, the coaches and the relationship. And one thing that has been hammered home over the last couple of weeks is that Brian Kelly has really dug in to the defense, spending extra time in meeting rooms, spending extra time on the practice field with the DBs, with Matt House, with scheme, philosophy. So, one thing that I kind of recognize Kelly as an offensive guy, when I think of him. But knowing that, you're 30 years into any trade, you're pretty seasoned on all of the product, right?
It's probably picked up a little bit of defense,
sure.
just from being around it so long. But I think what you said was perfect. It's identity. That's what we were trying to find, I guess, either the word for or for LSU to find some calling card on defense as to what they are. Is it, do you get off the field on third downs? Do you try to create turnovers? And it feels like everybody's kind of falling in place, whether it'd be Harold Perkins in that slot role. It feels like that fits his identity well. Now you have Denver Harris coming on third down. That feels like something that they're getting better each week. And I'll say it again, from the addition of Pete Jenkins, that was one of the dominoes that fell where it kind of got you right a little bit. And obviously you'll see against Army no Mekhi Wingo, which is interesting. I didn't even know he was hurt.
I didn't either. That was surprising to hear that his status was
Doubtful.
Not only that, but that he had been hurt all season.
Right.
And
A typical Makai, though.
yeah, right. I mean, and continuing to play at the level that he has been at has been very impressive. So, obviously, much deserved week off for both those guys in Wingo and Emory Jones, and being the priority that both of them are to each side of the ball. I mean, they are musts in having back for the trip to Tuscaloosa, and I think that's obviously the objective here. And look, I want to point out again, I'm knocking on wood here, that for the second straight year under Brian Kelly, Mike and Matt Franks and the crew, LSU has stayed relatively healthy. Mm-hmm. Right? And not only that, when you see them injured, there is a sense of confidence. I really felt confident after seeing Brian Kelly speak about the injury yesterday. I mean, you could see that he had almost like a refreshed tone to him, in the sense of, like, they feel like they can get him back. They feel like they can rehab him and he's going to be okay to play because they've seen it before. They've done it before. And, for the second straight year, I mean, it's been pretty impressive to see the way physically LSU is held up. Not only them, kind of being in shape outside of Mason Smith having to work himself back into game shape, but, being a very well-kept team and, for like I said, for the midway point, staying healthy, right? I mean, and then when you can down a player like Jones, who's so important to what you do, the confidence that you're going to get him back pretty quick. So
a lot of depth. A little bit of depth coming through for the Tigers.
I mean, when is the last time LSU's lost an all-conference guard, plugged him in with really a true freshman, a first-year player in a conference game,
rivalry
not
game,
really
blinked,
lost a step? I mean, like Kelly said yesterday on Lance Hurd's performance, a couple of false starts. He had the holding call, but, I mean,
you didn't expect a clean sheet.
To be expected, right?
Yeah.
In his first role, in his first time in SEC action, I mean, it's something that LSU is not accustomed to. I mean, really, it's not what LSU has ever seen, especially from a first-year player. Here he is, Kelly, yesterday. This is a little bit of an update on Makai Wingo, and also talking about Hurd stepping in for Jones and what that looked like from the coach's standpoint.
Season so far.
Well, first of all, when you have a true freshman that you can plug and play in an SEC game and not have to worry about, fanning to that side, chipping, leaving a tight end, and I believe that's a luxury from my perspective. He went in, played 69 snaps, and he had a couple of false start penalties, had a holding penalty, but those are things that you're going to live with a young guy that's going in there. But his poise, his ability to work with the five guys, the communication. Really pleased with his play. Makai Wingo has been nursing kind of a lower body injury all year. This gives us a chance to really get him right going into the bye week and then the rest of the season.
Hurd, very impressive in his first extended action of the season and being thrust in there without any really warning of that it was coming. And look, another impressive part about that is that he's not coming off the field. You're not coming off the field. When you look over and Emory Jones he's in street clothes and a boot, that you gotta finish the game. And I thought that was great reps. That was a moment for Lance Hurd that he can mile mark and really grow up from and use it as a piece of experience that he now, I'm sure he answered a lot of questions internally for himself on Saturday night. And a guy like, as prideful and as athletic and as accomplished as a guy like Hurd would rarely probably tell the public what his questions are about himself internally. But I imagine that whatever they are, the majority of them were answered on Saturday night. That's a good defensive line he was going up against in Auburn. And then you look third, fourth quarter, they're play calling for him. They're running behind him. I mean, don't think that you call that the line of scrimmage, you call that on the sideline, you call that in the huddle, that everybody's not like, wow, okay. I mean, what do you think Will Campbell's thinking when they call 3 consecutive runs over the right side? Like, the youngsters growing up. So, I mean,
this is a
great moment.
It's a great opportunity for Emory Jones. I mean, not Emory Jones, for Zlancer to kind of maybe play himself into the lineup a little bit.
Could be.
Because you've been asking, kind of waiting to see him make a move into the lineup, and then it felt like the offensive line got solidified a little bit. Now you have the Emory Jones injury. I don't know if he plays well enough at right tackle. You see maybe a situation where he gets some more run and you slide Emory Jones into guard, because it might be easier because he's coming back from an injury. Put him at guard. Let's see what goes on there. But Zlancer has a huge opportunity with the 2 games here to kind of play himself into more of a role than he's had.
Yeah, and really, by all accounts, he's been waiting on it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, he's been kind of chomping at the bit and waiting for an opportunity to really get in there and establish himself and make himself relevant within this competition. So, great reps for Hurd on Saturday night. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Katie's Restaurant. Katie's is located down in New Orleans on Iberville Street. Check them out. Tell Scott Craig and the crew that you heard it here on the show. They're open on Sundays now, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Same great menu, same great service, cold beer, great pizza, great menu items, 6 new televisions for you to make sure and not miss a play. In fact, if you want to check out the pre-gaming, you can. If you want to check out in-game, they got spots for you to watch the games over there at Katie's, or if you want to come back after the games, you can. Katie's located on Iberville Street. Online, katiesinmidcity.com, has a sister restaurant in Francesca's, which is located down by the lake in the Lakeview area. So check them out online, katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. Here is Kelly. This is 6, Stewie, of Kelly talking about the importance of this weekend. Look, the bye is on deck. Alabama is in the hole, but you got to take care of this weekend if you're LSU before you can get to all of that. And here is Kelly explaining the mindset going into Saturday's game versus the Black Knights.
Yeah, I mean, look, it'll be important for our guys to think about what's important right now. And the bye week's not important right now. We don't go to the bye week this week. This week we need to focus on our development, and we need to focus on our process, and we need to focus on Army. If we focus on anything else, we'll get beat. This football team is not a team that can play with the dimmer. We're either on or off. And so we need to be on. And so if we're locked in and doing our thing the right way, we're going to have a good Saturday. If we're not, we're going to struggle. And so we'll talk about that today when we meet. We've got to be locked in on our process and how we prepare this week against a really tough.
I thought that was a great way to talk about the team, really, to describe this LSU team. There is no kind of mid-level with this team. They're either on or they're off, and they're always on offense, and they've been off for the majority of the year defensively, but they're starting to kind of catch a stride and started to become a little bit confident in who they are and what they do, and starting to put together at least some consistent week in, week out performances that look the same, right? I mean, it was not as good against Auburn as it was against, or it was not as good against Missouri as it was against Auburn, but you're improving, you're getting better. That's the point of it, and hopefully this weekend versus Army, you can come out there and continue to establish that on the defensive side of the ball. Speaking of defense, here is Kelly speaking of what has been the difference here lately on why the defense is performing why they're performing differently compared to what they were looking like at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and maybe sometimes how I respond and answering it would maybe be better clarified by saying that our players are clearly understanding now how important it is for them to do their singular job. And when they function in that regard and that single-minded focus of, if I just do my job, how this all works together. They're starting to see, when I do my job, the linebacker can get to where he needs to, and then the safety can fit the right way, and then the corner can push crack. So I just think that they're seeing how this all fits together. Not that they didn't want to do their job, but sometimes they want to do somebody else's job too.
So really, I mean, there you kind of see the mindset of the defense, and what has been the message over the last couple of weeks is just, internal buy-in of doing your job individually. Just take care of what you're supposed to take care of, and that way that'll free up the defense to make the plays. So, look, some positive things to build on, and Brian Kelly speaking about that yesterday.
Thanks for tuning in to our premium LSU content right here on YouTube. If you want more of it, subscribe below.